afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Food Safety Conversation. And this month, we are talking about shifting paradigms for food regulations and compliances globally. Policies and regulations significantly influence the establishment of standards to ensure food safety. What is deemed safe to consume may not always align with legal compliance in every region. Various food regulatory authorities worldwide establish specific requirements in realm of food safety. It is a challenge for any food company to keep up with these ever-changing laws. Talking on this topic, we have Dr. Jasveer, who is Director and Head of Regulatory Affairs for MET region with International Flavors and Fragrances. Before this, he has worked in the areas of quality, food safety, and regulatory affairs with organizations like DuPont Nutrition and Biosciences, Mondelez, ITC, SGS, Food Research and Analysis Center, and Jagjeet Industries. He has also provided his expertise in laboratory quality management system to the government of Vietnam as a technical expert for FAO. He is a member of various committees, task forces of both government as well as industry associations. His areas of interest include regulatory and public policy frameworks in the areas of science, technology, and public health. Welcome, Dr. Jasveer. It is a pleasure to have you here today with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we also have Mr. Ravindra Rangarao, who is retired as General Manager from APEDA after serving for 33 years in various capacities. As General Manager South, he implemented various schemes of APEDA in states of Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Pondicherry. And as Deputy General Manager and Regional Head of Western Region, he carried out various activities of APEDA in Western region comprising the states of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Goa, Chhattisgarh with additional responsibilities of Southern region. Welcome, Mr. Rao. It is a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure being a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we start, a little bit about myself. I'm Surbhi Soril, Consultant and Head of Regulatory and Compliance Division, Food Safety Works. We are food safety consulting company based out of Bangalore with our offices in Mumbai and Delhi. Let's start with Dr. Jasveer. Sir, what major shifts or trends have you observed in global food regulations and compliances in recent years?
Thanks, Surbhi, and thanks for this opportunity to be part of this conversation. As with everything else in life these days, things are becoming complicated, even for the domains like regulatory affairs or for quality systems, and not only for food products, but across product sectors. So you do see that policy environments across countries are becoming complicated, and it is not a simple matter of science getting translated into regulations. There are multiple players, multiple stakes at play. On one hand, you have scientific facts or scientific developments. On the other hand, you also have public opinions, the interests of civil society, and certain belief systems which that civil society has. And the regulatory bodies are left with no choice but to balance these two, at times, very contradicting approaches, one coming from scientific domains, the other coming from the civil society interests or belief systems or whatever factor is at play. So the whole area of regulatory affairs is no longer a simple translation of science into a regulation, but it has to balance out multiple interests. So that's one which you increasingly see in countries. And linked to that, to some extent, is the role of non-state players is becoming more and more important. And when I say non-state players, means they are not government bodies, but they have enough influence and the authority to dictate certain things. And some of those things end up as things that food industry end up complying to. So whether these are private standards which are developed just because a large buyer is there who is dictating certain standards which go far beyond the regulatory domains in that country, or simply that there are people who want to have a certain kind of product and industry ends up complying to those sort of demands. Uh, the other factor which is coming out with much bigger force is evolving consumer preferences on foods, and which is forcing certain changes in the regulations as well as quality systems which organizations have to implement. And some of those examples from India, if you have to look at the veg, non-veg symbols, are a matter of consumer choices, which have ended up being part of the regulations. So these are kind of areas which are becoming bigger and important, not only for companies, but also for regulatory authorities to take care of. And another aspect which I do see is the reach of regulations is extending to cover far beyond the normal or conventional supply chains. So you are no longer limited to just a manufacturing location and the consumer, but it goes far beyond manufacturing location into their suppliers, into the workers which are operating in the factories, which supply materials to the actual manufacturing unit of a food product. So the whole reach of these compliance requirements or regulations is extending far beyond your primary manufacturing locations. That means that the the control which is being exercised is becoming much more stringent, is becoming or is trying to take over a much larger portion of your supply chain. And also there are certain requirements which are not even part of the law, but just because you are an organization of certain repute, there are unwritten expectations which are associated with that stature, and the organizations are expected to comply to this. So these are very complex kind of demands which are coming on to food industry, and they are looking at ways and means of complying to or addressing these requirements. Over to you, Sarbi.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think it is a good reference point to start with. My next question is to Mr. Rao. Sir, from your experience, what strategies or best practices have you observed for staying abreast the ever-changing landscape of food regulations? And how does APEDA support businesses in navigating these complexities of compliance with ever-evolving food regulations?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Surabhi, for having me in this program. To start with, I think APIDA as an organization started with the objective of developmental of export. So our concern was more into developing export, and focus was more on developing the exports, uh, rather less on the regulatory aspect of it. Slowly, when we moved into the international market, started exporting into many countries, especially the developed countries, then we started recognizing the importance of having a regulatory system in place in APIDA to counter those challenges what we face. Of course, we have FSSI, which looks into the domestic regulations. But as far as the export was concerned, so we took FSSI as a basis on which we can start implementing certain regulatory, systems when we export the products. Here again, we did not anticipate the challenges what we have to face later on, which I'll come to you later on during my discussion. One of the challenges was that the grape industry. Till today, we are one of the largest exporter of grapes. Our total exports of grapes is roughly about 2,000 crores, mainly from Maharashtra, the Nasik and Sangli belt of Maharashtra. That industry had a big setback in 2005 when there was a pesticide residues were affecting the products, and the shipments were rejected. The shipments have to be sent back, and there were a lot of losses. And then it had a cascading effect on the farmers who are producing grapes. Then Apida sat with the industry. It was a collaborative discussion. Then we came up with the software, which is called a GrapeNet software. Later on, it was extended to other horticulture products, and we introduced software where each of consignment of grapes which were exported from our country to the European Union have to pass through a regulatory system which will comprise of collecting the samples from the field level by the state government representative, the state horticulture agriculture department, then bringing them to the laboratory, which is recognized again by APIDA, and then testing it. And after the testing, the consignments are to be exported. So the entire module was brought into a web-enabled software. And after 2007, which got in, when it we implemented it, today we have absolutely no rejections happening because of the pesticide residue. So this is a small example which I thought I will quote here, because that is how APIDA started getting into the regulation. Because APIDA never thought of having a regulatory system in place, but slowly when we moved in, and these are some of the things which are. So later on when we move in, then I will come back on what are the things which APIDA did for promoting the export. But one thing which I would like to stress upon is, one is the regulatory part, the second one is the quality production. See, even today with all that with the demand for a quality products, but the quality products production in India is still low. The reason being, the management still today doesn't seem to prioritize the investment on quality, whether it is an investment on quality equipments or whether it's investment on food safety management training systems. Till even now, we see that there is a part of reluctance in the top management, which of course Dr. Jasveer must be aware, where but things are slowly. But unless you recognize that it is only the quality which is going to sell, and not only that, I think quality products also has got a advantage of, it can be a very unique selling proposition to a company as a whole. So it need not be a quality per se, but it can also add to your marketing, because of the products, especially the products which has a very low product differentiation, like for example mango, except a varietal difference. Suppose if I say Apus mango or Alfonso mango, it means the same. So how can you differentiate with Apus mango of one company vis-a-vis the other company? It is only the quality management system, the quality practices which been practiced by the management, it comes into being. So this is how the things have evolved in APIDA, and then slowly we have moved into other areas wherever the requirement has come in, which I'm going to touch upon during the next part of the discussion. Thank you. Over to you, Surabhi.
Thank you so much, sir. And very truly said, quality is the most important thing in food industry. Coming on to you, Dr. Jasveer. Sir, are there any particular challenges or opportunities emerging from the globalization of food regulations, and how can businesses navigate them effectively?
Sure. There are definitely challenges which are coming up because of globalization of regulations. And at the same time, there are opportunities as well which are emerging from the same phenomena. Uh, One of the things which is, I mean, if I pick up the challenges which are coming up, is that the global demands from regulatory frameworks are coming into India as well. So it is no longer a scenario that you can do or you can continue to do things in isolation without getting impacted from the developments, particularly in regulatory areas which are happening elsewhere in the world. So today, it is just a matter of time that those global requirements become part of your local requirements. So it is just simply a matter of time. Those things are coming in and things are becoming much more stricter. Uh, so the new set of requirements, I mean, as an example of some of those global requirements uh, getting involved or getting included in the local requirements, is traceability was never such a big thing in regulatory frameworks till a few years back, right? Uh, but because of challenges and some of the challenges which were highlighted by Dr. Ravindra, say around the supply chain of certain product lines, whether it is grapes or mangoes, and which impacted the global position of India in terms of trade. Uh, and we had to implement those measures around traceability in India. Right? And that's the same situation with other products. While in case of say grapes and mangoes, it was primarily the impact which was happening in export markets. But for other products which are purely for domestic consumption, even there requirements around traceability are developing, and there are expectations that manufacturers will have a traceability right from their suppliers onto their consumers. Right, that's one example. The other is your expectations around transparency are becoming much more enhanced. The organizations cannot take that shelter any longer that it is my business and not your business. As an organization, you are expected to be transparent in every aspect, particularly when those aspects deal with areas of food safety and food quality. Uh, so these are kind of much stricter requirements which are getting implemented because of this globalization phenomena, which is becoming bigger and bigger. At the same time, it is not just one-way street that only stricter requirements are coming up. On the other hand, you are also getting the opportunity of being a player in the global markets. Yes, it does come with a certain set of requirements to be filled up to be able to do business in global markets, but that market is opening up. And one of the factors which is playing a role in that increased ability to participate in global markets is that our domestic standards of operation, standards of quality are becoming almost as good as global standards. So organizations find that, I mean, they are anyway doing everything which is required for those markets. So why not participate in that? So those are kind of opportunities which indirectly come to you uh, as a result of globalization of your ways of working. Now, they may be impacted because there are changes in the regulations, or they may simply be impacted because organizations also need to compete with other organizations in the same market, even if certain standards are not part of the regulations. I mean, as a very layman's example, If you walk around highways of India, the kind of restaurants that you get today are far, far better compared to what you used to get, say, 10 years ago. And most of those things have improved because of this phenomena of globalization, because certain players actually started doing things differently, and others were left with no choice but to compete. Right. So those are examples of one, the kind of challenges that it poses, and on the other hand, the kind of opportunities that it brings in. But for sure, I mean, organizations will have to take care that they proactively become ready for these new set of requirements or set of standards. I hope I answer your question.
Yes, very well. Thank you so much. And I'm sure people who are watching us on YouTube live right now, they are picking up every information, every piece of information that you are sharing. Now, coming back to you, Mr. Rao, sir, APEDA and FSSAI, both being the statutory bodies controlling the food business in India, how closely do these two work with each other, and do they provide any support to the industry to understand the regulatory requirements of other countries?
Oh, yes. As I told you, FSSI mainly looks into the domestic market in setting the standards, what is required for the domestic market, and for the exports, we take on from there. I mean, our basis standards, which has been fixed for the exports, is only based on the FSI standards, which is being developed by FSSI, which which has been published by them. Secondly, in order to have a good export market, it is very important to have a good domestic standards in place. So without a domestic standards in place, we will not be able to fight in case of any legal issues which may come up, unless we have a good a domestic standards. There the FSSI will come. The second thing is that we join hands together in the codex committee. Whenever there is a codex committee, meetings are held to fix the standards, especially the residues standards, or it may be for aflatoxins or other toxin standards. So there is a joint delegation which usually go APIDA and comprising of officials from APIDA and also from FSSI, wherein we sit together and then decide on what could be. Of course, we'll take on board the scientific the institutions also, and decide on what could be the minimum residues or the toxic levels which should be fixed for our exportable products. We have come across the cases where there are arbitrary the fixed limits, where we have to fight it out to tell them India, with a different geoclimatic conditions, may not require that high level of the residues, low level of residues which you have fixed it, because most of the residues get disseminated before it is marketed. In the sense, like being a hot country, it gets evaporated or transported more easily than in a colder country. So we need to such regulations, when we sit and then we work together very closely with FSSI. I hope I answered you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Mm.
Um, Coming to you, Dr. Jasveer now. Sir, recently in G20 summit, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor was announced. The Transcontinental Transport Corridor is backed by US, India, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Israel, the European Union, Italy, France, and Germany. How significant this is for the Indian food industry, and do you foresee any challenges that the industry should be prepared for?
Okay. So while this is not really part of my domain expertise, but as a representative of industry, I believe that one of the big challenge that we face in this part of the world is disproportionately higher costs and complexities associated with logistics. The logistics costs, which means transportation costs, and the other complexities associated with transporting a product from its manufacturing location to its ultimate destination, the consumption place, it is far too complex and far too costly in India. So any measure which attempts to ease that process and reduces either the cost for transportation or the time that is being taken to transport a product from one location to the other is ultimately going to benefit the entire industry. And food industry being just one of the industries, it will be helpful for every kind of industry, and this problem is relevant for every industry, not only food industry. Now, this I mean is much simpler transportation and a reduced cost will open up a lot of opportunities, particularly for perishables, which were earlier not available. Because you could participate in some of those markets now. That is one that you get a much bigger market to be part of. On the other hand, we also need to keep in mind that whatever helps you to export, we also need to keep it in mind that this is also true for the players who want to export their product into India. So that means the imports which will come into India and which will indirectly mean a lot of competition as well, or increased competition as well. So on both sides, a much higher opportunity as well as an increased degree of competition is going to be a result of this. But what ultimately helps everybody, because processed food industry in India in terms of size and penetration is still at a very nascent stage. It has not reached those kind of levels that it can potentially reach. So there is a space for many more players in the market. These kind of opening up of borders uh, will help consumers experience different kind of products, different kind of tasting experiences, and culinary experiences. And that way, what we normally say that consumers will evolve into a set of consumers which have a much finer taste and sort of appetite to consume a lot of products which are differentiated, which are new, which gives them new sort of experiences, and that will offer another kind of opportunity to industry, particularly startups who can operate at a much faster pace to deliver those kind of culinary or food experiences to consumers. Apart from the fact that they can definitely participate in exports as well. Uh, on terms of challenges, so apart from this import pressures which may potentially come up, uh, any sort of import and export and these kind of markets, they require at times they involve a lot of trade disputes between countries. And so countries also need to focus and develop their capabilities to deal with these trade disputes. That means we need to generate data, we need to build our scientific capabilities, and at the same time, we also need to work on building either multilateral agreements or mutual recognition agreements so that the systems which are implemented, either quality systems or verification systems or assessment systems, that these are recognized and are equivalent on both sides, the import as well as the export side, so that those trade disputes can be effectively handled whenever they arise, and they will arise. That's a reality of the market. So you have, I think, both opportunities as well as certain work to do, which I think is linked to these much broader economic corridor which is being envisaged. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Moving to you, Mr. Rao, how can governments and regulatory bodies balance the need for innovation in food industry with ensuring public safety through regulatory compliance? And how is the global social political scenario is and its impact on the evolution of such policies?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dr. Jasvi touched upon that point of, I mean, the changing consumer preferences which happen globally with ever increasing, I mean, demand for high quality products and then nutritious product, the products which doesn't have much of residues. So these are the new challenges which keep coming and then which keep evolving. So what we do is, in order to strike a balance between the requirement of high requirement of the export market and the capability of the Indian producers to match that requirement, we have an elaborate consultation process whenever we come across fixing of any standards. The standards, of course, the FSSAI standards will be taken as a basis on which APIDA don't fix any standards on its own. It's FSSA which fix the standards. But when it comes to the implementation part of it, APIDA plays a role in getting those stakeholders to implement those. And in doing so, we come across those challenges where it may be required in the importing countries, but it may not be feasible to happen. That a small example which I would like to quote is the halal certification, which I think you must be reading in the papers where the halal certification are being imposed or maybe made necessary for all those products which may not require. So we had a detailed stakeholders consultancy group with of course the scientific institution and FSSI and other stakeholders, and then APEDA has now brought out the halal certification process. Which are the products which requires halal certification has been clearly made available. It is there in APEDA website, and then which has been approved by the ministry, which can be used for the export purpose. So whenever the exporting countries or the importing countries ask for halal certification, we have now system in place where that as per our requirement or as per the government of India requirement, the halal certification is required for these products, and this is how the process is done. And that's a small example which I thought I will share here. The second area where we talk about the challenges. See, the trade dispute is one of the challenges which Dr. Jasveer also touched upon. See, the trade disputes, we have uh, I mean um, developed a software wherein as soon as we receive any complaints from the importing countries, then we immediately raise a rapid alert which are being sent to the exporting communities. And the rapid alert basically advises them like what needs to be taken care, so that they don't repeat that type of mistakes which they have done, so that that could result in a higher trade disputes or even banning the countries the product. So we immediately take action on that. If there are one or two rejections, then immediately we take that into account and then immediately communicate to the importing country and then see that that doesn't take a form of a trade dispute. But if it crosses beyond a certain level and then it results in a trade dispute, and of course we have a system in place where the DGFT, it's called a Director General of Foreign Trade, which is again a body under the Commerce Ministry, where there is a electronically you can file your complaints, and then the importer also needs to respond to that, and we have put that in system where we can resolve these trade disputes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And it has been a fantastic conversation so far. People who are listening to us live on YouTube, please post your questions and we will take them at the end of the session. Continuing with our conversation with you, Dr. Jasveer, we know that food safety regulations are important to safeguard everyone's health. But the pace at which they are changing, it can be challenging for the company, especially for the startups. How does a company adapt to evolving food regulations at such a fast pace, especially in different regions or markets?
Okay. Uh, for sure. I mean, that's a reality that every organization has a limited set of capabilities and capacities. And anything going beyond that level is going to pose a challenge for the organization, right? So, and particularly when it comes to regulations and a new regulation, putting up a new set of compliance requirements always poses a certain degree of challenge to the organization. First, in terms of understanding what exactly are the compliance requirements, and then implementing the necessary measures to meet those expectations. Uh, so yes, it poses a certain degree of challenge, but then there are ways and means by which organizations can meet these kind of challenges. One of the fact that I have seen, which plays a big role, is how well engaged that organization is with the external world. The organizations which are engaged at a much bigger level with the external developments always build a higher degree of capability to meet these kind of new demands coming from regulations. And they are also able to build a much realistic sort of timeline by which they can build internal capabilities which are required to meet new regulatory requirements. So a much stronger and an ongoing engagement with the external developments is foundational and fundamental to the ability of an organization to effectively manage this challenge. The other thing is, which is more about proactive. As I mentioned earlier, that as far as that difference between global and the local set of requirements, it is only a matter of time that global becomes a requirement in your local. So if an organization is future ready or is forward looking, the organization will do or will have a good horizon scanning process. And although it's not something to be worried about this term, all that it means is that you look around and see what is happening, and at least build your mind maps that in case that comes into your local scenario, then how you are going to manage that. So that forward looking horizon scanning and building your roadmaps to comply to those requirements is another activity which is very important for organizations to meet. And the third is that this is also a fact that organizations come in all sizes and shapes, and not all of them have the abilities, whether capabilities or capacities, to undertake these kind of activities. So when you don't have internal capabilities, then be conscious of that and get help from certain organizations or platforms which are available to help you, at least to understand what is happening around you, and then it is up to you to decide your own way to meet those requirements. So whether it is say platforms which are provided by industry associations or provided by the government bodies like APIDA, who have that mandate to look around in these areas. Industry should effectively use those platforms and and get to know what is happening, what is required, and build their own roadmaps. So I think with all these three, uh, I mean, if I have to pick one as a principle, it is that you need to engage. There is no way that you can meet these kind of complexities or complex requirements without engaging. Now, whether you engage on your own, you engage through agencies like APIDA or Food Safety Works, or through some other way, that's a choice that organization can make.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Coming to you, Dr. Rao. Sir, can you share examples of innovative approaches or strategies that countries or regions have adopted to enhance food safety regulations? How do changing consumer preference and demands impact the development and revision of food regulations worldwide?
Yeah, so I can pick a few examples of what we did rather than what other countries did. I'm not very familiar with what other countries did on that, but I can definitely pick on those examples what we did for the first time in the world. Like for example, in the organic sector, there is an organic certification process. Okay, and this organic certification process is always dependent on two or three stakeholders, or little more than the different stakeholders who are involved in the process of certification. And then, though there was a strict regulations in place, but still we could find that there are certain loopholes which existed in those systems which were earlier there for the organic certification. Then we came up with again a web-based. We took the support of technology. We brought in a web-based, a system called a TraceNet. System which has put in place, and that we were the first to do that for organic products in the entire world. And the tracenet was when we started developing, then we understood the integrities what involved in that, because it should cover the production part, it should cover the processing, it should cover the logistics, and then the exporter and the importer. So there was a whole lot of stakeholders which needs to be covered. And then over a period of time, we have now brought in, yeah, a complete what you call a system with 100% traceability, in the sense like, now we have to know that, suppose to give a small example, like an organic farm, then there is an organic farm which is certified, and there is an organic product which comes out of that farm. For example, mango, you certify it, but how much you certify it? The yield of mango vary from different region. So the challenge came in for us, like, how do you fix the yield? So then we found out a way out for that. We said, okay, fine. We say that maybe 5 quintals per acre, and then we said, okay, 10% is allowed. So a farm which is registered as an organic farm can certify an organic product worth about 5 metric ton plus 10%. If it is more than that, the system will not accept that product as an organic product. It doesn't allow you to proceed further. So this is how we evolved and then brought in that traceability system, which was first in the country, I said. The second example was the peanut industry. See, groundnut industry is again a very fascinating and industry where India has got a good potential. If you look at the areas like Gujarat, and then Tamil Nadu, and then Karnataka, Maharashtra, so they are all big groundnut producing states. And then we were exporting a lot of coal. We still do export, but we had a roadblock of the aflatoxins which affected us. Then again we came in, and then here we used a combination of both technology and the physical inspections. What we did was we visited the production sites, or the factories, and then we certified on the hygiene part of it. We ensured that the hygiene, the quality management systems are put in place at the production level, and then we took the technology's help in designing the in bringing in the laboratories for testing it. So the laboratories were roped in. Laboratories used to go and then collect the samples from the peanut units, and then they test it, and then they used to come up. Then they give a certificate. Based on that, the export certificate was generated. Only after which the exports were allowed. So this was done basically in the peanut industry. So you have n number of examples where we have, found out a way out. And as I said earlier, it's all been done on a complete, transparent, with all the stakeholders in place, so that we should not land in difficulties in implementing it. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Jasveer, what are the key considerations for business operating in multiple countries with diverse regulatory landscapes? How can they streamline their compliance efforts?
Okay, so that is always a challenge, and that's always a much bigger challenge if the organization size or scale is small, because with limited set of resources, there's only so much that you can do. But there are certain things that one can take care of while meeting. I mean, for sure, there is no two ways about the fact that you are supposed to meet the requirements in the country of sale. So whatever those requirements are, you need to meet. And for that, your first starting point is that do you really understand what are the requirements in those countries? And that's again linking to what I was mentioning earlier, is that engagement is the only option. So you engage with the set of options that you have, or which are affordable for you, and get to understand what are the exact requirements that you need to meet. And then you can implement the systems and processes which are required because of those requirements in country of sale. And if you have to pick just one, then my suggestion is that always keep your eyes and ears open around what is happening in codex, because whatever is happening in codex will find its way into the country regulatory frameworks slowly. I mean, it's just a matter of time. In certain countries, it happens at a much faster pace. In certain countries, at a little slower pace. But that will give you an idea of what is coming your way. And the other is that uh, you may also, uh, because of the scale and because of resource shortages, you may also prioritize what you need to do yourself, and what is something where you can take a calculated risk. Because
Okay.
I mean, one of the things which I learned while navigating my career through regulatory frameworks and quality systems is that there is absolutely nothing in this world which comes with zero risk. Even if you do everything possible or everything which you can think of, there will still be certain scenarios where there is a risk involved. So there are certain scenarios where you can take a calculated risk. There are certain scenarios or certain areas where it's an absolute must. Uh, so as an organization, you can take those calls, and none of this means that you take a calculated risk on something which is impacting safety of the product, right? It only means that there are say things like labeling. it is very evident in your face. So when you export a product, that is definitely going to be checked. So make sure that there is no problem with the labeling. Right. These are kind of approaches that one organization can design to minimize their risks and also optimize their resource utilization. Right. So certainly engagement, understanding of the requirements, and judicious use of your resources is the only way that I can think of. And this complexity is going to remain, because the more markets you get into, more number of authorities, more number of frameworks you will have to deal with.
That is absolutely true, sir. Thank you so much. And my last question to you, Mr. Rao. After this, we will take the questions from our audience. So, sir, in your opinion, what role does international collaborations play in shaping and harmonizing food regulations on a global level?
Oh, yeah, I think they play a very important role in not only easing out the tensions, and then it also helps in improving our exports, and and also it will also help in understanding the regulations and understanding the requirement in much better way of doing it. For example, the bilateral meetings which happen between the countries, where these things are, discussed, these bilateral meetings are of great importance, wherein we take up the issues which are affecting us, and in terms of and they also come up with the issues which they are facing it, so that we come up with a solution for these issues. The second thing is that, which is very very unique in for the agriculture sector, is that you cannot export whatever we produce, especially the fresh fruits and vegetables, because we need market access to those countries. And market access is only given or granted based on the scientific. There are a lot of scientific data which has to be produced, given to the country, and then which are followed up by series of discussions. So we engage with the countries for our market access, which we decide depending on the competitiveness what we have, and then we engage with the importing countries and see that we get a market access. And then second, we also participate in codex meeting, as I said earlier, where we ensure that the limits which are fixed are reasonable and are scientific, are based on scientific evidences, taking the geographical condition of India. And then third one is we also have a system of joint working groups, which are there in certain countries, where we engage with them in working on this. So all these, the international, forums what we have to sort out the issues, we ensure that we take up all the issues there and see that there is a solution for any the problem. And of course, we also look at widening our export basket by getting more and more market access to the countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And now coming to our questions from our audience. So our first question is from Mr. Kishore, and the question is: modern food system has challenges with pesticides, chemicals, and many more. What are your thoughts on this? So, Mr. Rao, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, can you just repeat it?
Modern food system has challenges with pesticides, chemicals, and many more. What
Hmm.
are your thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, I think Dr. Jaspreet said, we have to face that. We have to face these type of challenges if we want to get access to those market. And then I leave it to them. If they don't want, let them not do it, in case of certain countries. So for example, if they want to export to the countries like Bangladesh, or to Sri Lanka, it may not have a stringent regulations like what you are exporting it to Europe or US. So it all depends on the priority of a company. If the company needs to look into the bigger markets, or the markets which are paying you well, then they will ask for quality products. Then they will ask for residues free products, which you need to adhere to, and you need to work on that. I think Dr. Jasveer also touched upon how we can do that by engaging with the different stakeholders, and see that you so once you decide that you are going to get into that particular market, you need to focus on how to improve on that, and that is the only way out where you cannot escape from those things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And the next question is from Kajal Dalvi. The question is, can you discuss basic requirements of food labeling with respect to the FSSAI? Dr. Jasveer, would you like to answer this one?
So, discuss labeling requirement means what? See, you have a labeling and display regulation which is issued by FSSAI, and that gives you the basic set of definitions. Then it has a chapter which gives you general labeling requirements for prepackaged foods. Then it has a chapter on labeling requirements for non-retail containers. It has a chapter on labeling requirements for food additives when they are sold as such. So these are requirements which are identified for each of these categories in that. And see, fundamentally, and that's not only for India, but if you look across the country, there are certain basic requirements which are applicable almost in every country. So the name of the food, the description of the food, list of ingredients, right? And if there is any allergenic or hypersensitive ingredient, highlighting that in a certain way. Requirements around legibility, which means the size of letters or the way they have to be mentioned. Certain warning labels which are associated if certain additives or certain other ingredients are present in a product. Then the traceability requirements, the manufacturing location and license number, veg, non-veg origin, instructions for use. I mean, these are kind of requirements which are specified for these kind of products. So, and this all these regulations of FSSAI, they are available free of cost on the website of FSSAI. So you can just refer to that and then see in which category your product falls and comply to those requirements.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jasveer. Next question is from someone called Mr. Crossover. And the question is, again, interesting question. How do we recall a food product that inadvertently caused consumers to suffer foodborne disease, and how we as food safety officers deal with this fallout? Any one of you who would like to answer this question?
Okay, so see again, for recall, there is a regulation which is there in FSSAI. So that puts the regulatory requirements of undertaking a product recall, right? But fundamentally, implementing a recall is the responsibility of manufacturer or the FBO. So what it basically requires is that that whole recall process should be available beforehand in the organization, that in case there is a product which is required to be recalled, then what is the process to be followed, who's going to be in charge of that whole process, how that information will be passed on to the regulatory agencies, how any requirement of an information which is required to be passed on to consumers will be met, whether a media release is required or not, and once you have conducted the whole process of recall, how you will close a recall. So that entire set of steps within the overall recall framework needs to be set up within an organization, and these are the regulatory requirements. Now, even if it was not a regulatory requirement, um, it is a responsible behavior on part of a food manufacturing organization to undertake recall if there is a slight chance that the product may not be safe for consumption of consumers. So that's a fundamental requirement that is applicable on everybody. So as a voluntary measure, even if recall regulation was not there, my submission is you be ready to undertake a recall in case a requirement to undertake that arises.
Thank you so much, sir. And our last question from the audience is from Ms. Kirupa Rajalakshmi. And I think this question is directed to both of you. Her question is: are there specific details available regarding how the traceability system works within APIDA and IFF?
Yeah, let me start with the traceability systems what we have put in place. Um, See, APIDA, as I said earlier, it started with the developmental objective, and then we then started getting into the regulatory thing because of the requirement of the trade. So the traceability is not mandatory for all the products. For example, if you want to export mangoes or grapes to non-European country, you can still do it, but you have to fulfill the regulation of the importing countries. So one has to be clear about what the importing countries require and what are the test parameters which is required to be tested before it is being exported to other country, but they don't fall under these traceability systems of what I've discussed. But the traceability system which I explained is only for those products where we thought that was hampering our exports because of the various issues, like it may be residues issues or it may be toxins. Wherever those issues have not come across, we have not tinkered that. For example, any processed foods industry don't need not have to go through this traceability system, but as a requirement, as a safeguard measure, you need to always ensure that the food safety management system is practiced and then certified for every food manufacturing unit. That's it. Over to you, Dr. Jasmine.
Okay, so as far as the question around IFF traceability systems, one, uh, these are internal processes, so we will not be able to share that in public, but uh, I can assure you that those systems satisfy the requirements of the regulatory authorities as well as uh, the requirements which are posed on us by our customers. That means the manufacturers who use our ingredients. And fundamentally, this means that we know from where that raw materials have come in, where we have manufactured, and how that whole transportation supply chain has operated, and where that material has been sold. So that means we do have that information, and that information is provided to the consumers of our materials or the companies who buy our materials. So yes, traceability systems are in place, but if you want to have some details around that, then probably we'll have to have that offline discussions with us.
Yeah. One more point which I would just add on, which I thought I will. The traceability products which is required as per APIDA. They can just go to the APIDA website and check which products require traceability, or they can talk to APIDA officials. Be it in Delhi or in Bangalore. and then find out what are the products which requires the traceability to systems to be followed, or which are the products which are free to export in terms. But the bottom line is that they have to ensure that uh, they meet the importing countries' requirement. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. And with this, we would like to close our session with quick final remarks from you. So, Dr. Jasveer, first off to you.
Uh, I think quickly, my only comment is that globalization gives you a lot of opportunities, but it also means that there are a lot of set of responsibility expectations which are also put on businesses, and your ability to participate in global markets depends on how well you are prepared to meet those expectations. So as long as an organization is aware, it is engaged with the external developments and implements the right kind of systems, the whole world is your stage. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. And now, Mr. Rao, your remarks, please.
Yeah, I mean, the global markets are always fascinating. For me, they are there for a country like ours, which has got so much of diversity to capture them. But having said that, it does come with the challenges. But good thing is that there are a lot of organizations which can support them, which can help them. Like APIDA can certainly pitch in wherever exporter who want to export food items. APIDA can certainly guide them and tell them like which are the markets which they can think of, what are the quality requirements over there, and then what are the importing countries regulations. All that information, of course, it's available in APIDA website. I'm sure there are other sister organizations where like APIDA who are into support system. And then we also have a wing where in APIDA where we also financially support the exporters in terms of building up their infrastructure, in terms of building up their quality, capability. So I think they can always utilize that and then bring up the quality. And then, as I said, huge market for the right products is always there. And then good thing is that as there are agencies which are available. And then there is to there are support agencies like, for example, ECGC, like Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India is there, which can support with the credit guarantees in case if there is a failure. So use all these supports systems which are available, the government systems, and I'm sure you can be a good player in the global market. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very useful information. And it was a pleasure to have such a heartening discussion today. And we hope this has been very insightful and session for everyone, and it will trigger some thoughts on this topic. I want to take this time to thank both of you, Dr. Jasveer and Mr. Rao, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. And as we start wrapping up, a little bit about ourselves. We are a food consulting company on a mission to keep food safe for human consumption. Food Safety Conversation is a monthly webinar series to share knowledge from practitioners on various aspects of food safety. Please share your feedback on our email ID feedback@foodsafetyworks.in. If there are topics that you would like us to cover, please send them to us and we will try to bring them to you. To stay updated on our webinars, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, and our handle is Food Safety Works. We regularly share news and insights about what is going on in the world of food safety. As a company, we are committed to sharing knowledge and providing end-to-end solutions for food safety. We conduct regular online training on various topics, including post-act training as per the FSSAI's mandate. To check on how we can help you on your journey of health and safety in food, please visit our website www.foodsafetyworks.com. And while you are there, do not forget to subscribe to our newsletter. Last year onwards, we started a new awareness initiative called India Food Safety Conclave, which is an annual event in Bangalore to conduct the food safety connect the food safety community, industry, and experts. The second edition of India Food Safety Conclave is being held on June 21st, 2024 at Bangalore Exhibition Center at Domulur, Bangalore. Watch out for our social media handles for more information on the conclave. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a good rest of the day and wishing you safe times ahead. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sarbi. Bye.
Bye.